And a return to normal after 20 months, a long wait, travelers flocking to that Canada-U.S. land border today as the United States ended its ban on non-essential travel. There were long lineups, as you can imagine, waits at multiple border crossings this morning from east to west after restrictions lifted at midnight to fully vaccinated travelers. There is still, though, a major roadblock. If you want to come back into Canada, you need to have a negative PCR test at your own expense, a cost that can run anywhere from $150 to $300. And those tests likely to be a significant financial barrier that prevents some people from traveling to begin with. The federal government is under increasing pressure to lift that PCR test requirement, but is it possible they will just become part of our new normal? Let's bring in the mayor of Sarnia, Ontario, very familiar with the border, of course, Mike Bradley. Mike, always good to see you. Appreciate you taking time on the show here. You're calling for the government to get rid of this PCR test.
Well, not only myself, other border city mayors and mayors in the United States, like in Niagara, American congressman who's been on your show before, Congressman Higgins. And what we're representing is, look, we've stayed the course. We supported the government when they closed the border. We understood why it had to happen, and we've supported them all the way through this. But we do believe this test is unnecessary, and I think the case could be made. It's an impediment, and you mentioned about people not being able to afford it. The cases that really mean the most to us, it's not being able to cross-border shopping. It's not, just going to see your cottage. It's about the fact there are many people that can't unite yet because of the fact if they took their family over there to see loved ones, they would have to pay $1,000. It's an unreasonable cost to put on people, and there really isn't strong evidence that the testing would make a difference. The Americans don't apply that to us. I mean, when they go back and forth, they're not applying it to their own people. So why are we applying it to ourselves? And that's what the border mayors are saying, is that this is not necessary.
And Mike, why do you think it's still a requirement at this point?
Well, I think, we're Canadians, right? We're always safe. We don't want to be sorry. So that's part of this. But I do think it's encouraging that Ottawa speak better than I do. But when Dr. Tam the other day said, we're now deeply re-examining this, I think that was a clear message that they understand that this is a significant issue. And all we wanted all the way through this was fairness. And, unfortunately, the Americans got the benefit of coming back in here in July, and we didn't get the same benefit till now. And now we want the same equality in the testing, too.
We had an opportunity to hear from Canada's federal minister responsible for the border, Marco Mendicino, when he was asked about the high cost of the PCR test. Here's a little bit of what he had to say, Mike.
It's a fair question, and we've done everything that we can to ensure that there are COVID benefits for families who need it the most. And this is a government that has had the backs of Canadians, and particularly those Canadians who are working extremely hard. We've had the backs of small businesses as well to provide them with supports when it comes to rent relief and wage subsidies. And all of those supports have been designed to help Canadians get through this pandemic.
And the other thing, Mike, that's important to point out, on Friday, we heard from Canada's top doctor, Theresa Tam, and if you read between the lines, she seemed to indicate some flexibility on this PCR test requirement, potentially in the weeks and months moving forward. Are you asking for the government to get rid of all testing, or would you be okay with the rapid testing as the Americans use?
Well, there's a deadline coming up. It's November 21st when the regulations run out again. They can choose to renew. I mean, one of their options is to go with the lower cost testing. I mean, I personally could support that versus the $200 testing. I will say the minister reached out today after our press conference to the border mayors to have a meeting. So I see that as encouraging too, because all the way through this, we've supported them, as I said earlier, and we want to continue to support them. And we wouldn't take this risk on the testing if we didn't think it was not a good thing to do. We're here to protect our citizens, and that's what we're doing. But we think this test is just way too expensive. And I keep on saying, one of the things that I was looking forward to is being able to go to Detroit and see the Lions lose in person, the Detroit Lions, instead of watching them lose on TV for the last 2 years. So that, there's practical things we want to do, but I still think that the government now can wipe out this testing, and there's no risk to Canadians.
Mike Bradley is the mayor of Sarnia, Ontario. Mike, good to have you part of the conversation today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Todd.